Good evening. Welcome everybody to tonight's special meeting of the Board of Finance, Wednesday, March 4th, 2020. I'd like to call to order the meeting with beginning with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have one agenda item tonight, and it's just continued deliberation of the departments. For those who were here yesterday or may have heard, right, we've divided all the accounts into three categories, 1, 2, 3. The ones we got through last night, those are kind of just the really simple ones. For example, town treasurer. Today, we're going to begin with category 2. Those are accounts that are a little bit more complicated than category 1, but along the same lines, kind of understandable, at least on their face. That we call category 3, or what I call category 3, I don't know if everybody's adopted that terminology, are the more complicated departments. So tonight, to start, category 2, just rattle them off. It was suggested it'd be helpful for folks to know before we start what those accounts are, or what those departments are. It'll be Department 160, 160 professional services, 180 building inspection, 190 data processing, 220 fleet maintenance, 230 public works, 245 transfer station, 250 planning and zoning, 260 building maintenance, 270 tree warden, 310 Bethel Fire, 320 Stony Hill Fire, 350 Health Department, 380 Parks and Rec, 405 the intra-government agency subsidies, and then the last two, Department 430 Senior Center and 435 Library. So those are our category 2 accounts. I'll try to go through this quickly because we see that we got some people here for those particular accounts, so we'll see if we can kind of get to those quickly. We'll maybe just use the same format that we used last night, where I'll open for discussion with a motion, hopefully get seconded, and then we'll talk, and to the extent we think we need to amend that motion, we will, and go from there. So for the first account, Department 160 Professional Services, I'll make a motion that we accept the balance as recommended by the Board of Selectmen in the amount of $256,080.
I'll second.
Okay,
I have a question.
discussion.
I'm sorry, what number are we on?
160.
Sure.
160?
160 professional
I guess
services.
What had we used last year, Bob, in 160 or Brad? What had been expended?
Brad will pull that number up.
And I wasn't here, but I understand that we're in negotiations with several contracts.
But you also got the court case coming up too with Duracell.
Duracell.
The 5-year history on this is, over the last 5 years, we spent $189,491. 10 years, $192,250. And 15, $178,391. So within the last 5 or 10 years, we're at that 190 point, and we may go even higher. But Brad will give you the amount that we spent last year.
Last year we spent 192, 2018 we spent 185, 2017 we spent 237.
Okay, 237?
Yeah.
We had budgeted 226, and they're requesting 256?
That's just legal services.
Right, I
I'm just
understand.
talking about the one line,
Right.
which was budgeted at 160.
Last
Oh,
year.
okay, all right, I don't see the breakdown, so.
It's in there. Just hit the expenses, and then you get the breakdown of everything.
Oh, okay, sorry about that. I was just,
Yep, Brian, I'm sorry.
I mean, I would like to reduce that line by 5,000 at least. I think that's a reasonable number to. I mean, I'll make a motion unless someone wants to say they wanna go more, I'll make a motion to reduce line 352 in legal services by 5,000, bringing it down to 185.
So we have that amended motion.
Can I have a question? Ask a question
So you're
before
just
we?
talking about that line in
I'm
here.
just talking about that line.
Oh, okay.
I'm not talking about anything, I
So
just
did
made a
you-
motion to that specific.
Okay.
Do you have any background or basis for that?
Well, I mean, back background and basis is at the end of the budget, each year, even in the years we were over, we found the money, whether it was money that was going back in, you know, to the general fund or whatever. I mean, we never didn't pay the bills and be short, so I think a $5,000 cut is pretty reasonable. And I'm pretty sure that if it wasn't, I think Bob would put me in my place quickly, saying that that's too much and we can't afford it.
I mean, what's gonna happen at the end of the year, like you said, if we're over,
We're going
you know,
to-
hopefully there's other accounts that support that, so.
I'm sorry, Nick, did you second it?
I second
Bob, when we look to the year-end transfers for fiscal year 19, it looked like professional services, this account, was short 85,748.
It could be, I mean, I
Prior
don't have
year.
that schedule that we went through back in, December, November, I don't have that with me, but it was over, it's always over, it's always, you know, overspent.
And the only reason why I bring it, if we were close, be like, yeah, why not? 5,000 would be a target, a goal for us. But this looks like we've overshot it the last few years, and you're saying between the property tax appeal from a large taxpayer.
Well, that's the one that's coming up this year.
That you think
Mhm.
we'll be at 190, you have high confidence that we'll be at 190 or
Maybe
more?
more, yeah. Mhm.
What was the reason for not going above 190 if you think it might be more? I'm not suggesting, I'm just kind of curious.
What was the reason for what?
Not going above 190.
I just used the history, and again, I mean, you have 5 years, 189, 491, and 10 years at 192, 250. So,
It's not a big number anyway, any which way, I mean, what do folks think?
Well, obviously, I think we should cut it by 5,000. I think Nick agrees with me. So,
When we start taking 5,000 in that once.
you know, I just don't think it's that detrimental to cut
Set the chip
5,000.
whatever we can, because
From
at the
that.
end of tomorrow night, it's not gonna be pretty.
Yeah.
I just wonder, I mean, this is something we're gonna pay whether it's 195 or 185, we're gonna pay whatever it is. And the best information is it's be 190 or plus. So, you know, it's kind of, are we just fooling ourselves by cutting it to, you know, making it look good in the long run? It's kind of a you know, $5,000 doesn't seem to make a whole lot of difference. And I guess I'm somewhat neutral on it, I'm not sure I buy the logic is what I'm trying to get to.
I guess we could look at it, you know, I think, what do we assume for a tax collection rate, Bob?
98.7.
98.7. We've been averaging 99.6, 0.7, give or take. You know, we're talking about $5,000 and, you know, pretty high confidence that we're gonna be in the 99 realm this year in tax collection. I think it's a safe cut to make, and that will be okay at the end of the day.
Okay. No real objection here, it's just,
Yeah, like I almost feel like maybe we should, I mean, if we're gonna go with that path, should it be more than 5? You
I'm
know,
all
like if
for
we're
it.
gonna actually,
The thing that I am concerned about, right, we're talking about the tax year that goes July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021. If the events of the last few weeks carry through and we have a bad economy for the near term, then I think Ann would tell us we're not gonna get our 99.3 historic recovery. It's gonna be less than that. There won't be the excess that we can rely on, and we're kind of digging the hole a little bit deeper for something that we have high confidence is gonna go negative. If, for me, just kind of thinking out loud, if we had less certainty about the amount being at 190 plus, then I'd be like, yeah, let's take the risk on it, but this one seems to have high probability of being over 190 and eating into what might be our cushion should we get some form of financial depression, recession. Yes, Cynthia?
Since, we're still at the beginning of this, we could table this like we did another account and come back to it, because we'll know more at the end of this evening.
Whether 5,000 would really make a
Yeah,
difference.
I mean,
or
we'll
not.
know more when we
Yeah, I
get
think
through
that-
more accounts.
I kind of think that makes sense. Just put a placeholder. on
Yeah,
it.
like, we tabled something else to talk about, like, because it was to get
Look,
to.
that $2,600
Yeah.
they were
exactly.
moving around.
So,
I mean, I don't think there's a doubt that we're gonna spend 190, it's pretty clear, but it's whether we wanna allocate 190 today.
It's like it's not a real savings, and we're not cutting anything out, we're just
we
speculating
can
that.
come back.
But, well, I mean, it was my motion, I guess. I
Yeah.
mean, I guess part of me thinks I understand what you're saying, but what I'm also saying too is as a board, and I'm not suggesting that we're overtaxing people, but if we go through the historical, let's go back 5 years, tell me how much we've transferred into the general fund each year. Go back 10 years, tell me how much we've transferred into the general fund. I think this is a pretty safe bet that 5,000 is an okay cut, and we're gonna be just fine. And we're not gonna be in any trouble over $5,000, and I think it makes sense to make the cut.
The 5,000 doesn't bother me either. This is helpful to have this discussion now, because I think it's gonna come up a few times tonight.
Yeah.
We've had a 22% fund balance since 2015.
Oh, sorry.
So it's been there for a while. And in part, that was because we borrowed money instead of doing full taxation. Right? We bought $100 of goods and services, we taxed to 98, and we borrowed short-term debt for the two. Now, we've paid that down, that short-term debt, so we're back to kind of paying cash for all of our expenses. I would just, again, for 5,000, why not maybe take a flyer, but this concept, I think we should really kind of get comfortable with where are we going to cut it off? Because again, I'm nervous about, we don't have enough information, there's a tremendous amount of uncertainty about what's going on in the global economy. And so I'm a little worried about eating into our cushion.
I'd like to vote on it if we can.
All right, so
Unless
we,
there's more further discussion.
We have a amendment to table it, right?
yeah, that's,
Yeah, I'll amend it to table it, to come back to it, and then if that fails, then we move to the, whatever.
so is that an amendment to the
Can I
amendment?
amend that? Can I do that, Dion?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Are you withdrawing or are you
I was gonna
going?
say
No, he's not gonna
to
withdraw it.
No,
I'm
no.
not gonna withdraw.
All right, so the
Why don't we
first,
just vote on it and see where everybody's
Yeah,
flavor
okay,
is?
yeah,
And
because
then
if it
fails, then we'll move on.
passes, it passes,
okay.
and then we move on.
Right, so the amended motion on the floor is, sorry, I should have this at my fingertips.
You don't have to, don't amend it on my account.
It's
You're
just
No,
just
no,
gonna
motion.
vote on
I,
his.
no, I know, his, right, we just did a motion, a typical opening
Oh.
comment on
Uh,
acceptance
So
of
we're
oversight.
amending that line
Brian
to
has-
reduce it to 185.
That's
right. Got
So
it.
by $5,000.
That's right. So the
Okay.
amended motion would be to reduce Department 160, account 5352, by $5,000. That's the motion, it's been seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oh, nay, sorry.
I was
So
like,
four to three.
Did you say nay?
I'm in.
We have two nays, okay,
4-3. Passes.
okay. What were you?
I'm a yeah,
Yeah, so 5.
5,000.
Again, the number of 5,000 doesn't bother me, but I think if we start getting to bigger numbers, we really have to think a little longer.
I agree.
No problem.
All right, so we need to follow that up with the total amended motion. So the total, the amended motion will be to accept Department 160 total for the revised amount of $251,080. Need a second?
Second.
It's just a silly second, but all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Presumably the same ayes, the same nays.
Yeah.
Okay.
Would you just say that total one more time?
200, and Brad, check me, $251,080.
Yeah. Okay.
So this goes to-
And everybody said yes on that?
No.
No, I think
It's
It
the
just
same-
mirrors.
Same
Same
nays,
nays.
same
4 to
nays.
2.
Okay.
Okay. Next account Building Inspection Department 180. I'll make a motion for discussion that we accept the Board of Selectmen's recommended level of funding of $290,164.
I'll second it.
Discussion.
Most of this increase was part-time, right? It was looking for more part-time help?
It was an additional 17,000 on top of the 17,000 that they had, so they wanted to move it to 34,000. I'd like to make a motion to cut 5,000 from the, I guess it would come under building official,
Salary.
would it be
Yeah.
101? I make a motion to cut that line by 5,000. So it would still be an increase of $12,000 in part-time help.
I would second that.
Excuse me, I have a question.
Well, on the amended motion or just in general?
They're tied together?
So we've got a motion, amended motion for, made, seconded, discussion, question.
Okay, I apologize because I was not here for that presentation. They included in the salary line is the salaries plus the additional, and the additional was 17,000.
17,000
And
more
so you'd like to
part-time help.
reduce that by
5.
five.
So they're still gonna get a 12,000 increase.
So
And this
maybe,
is-
maybe I'm on the wrong line, but it looks like here it's a 20,000 increase. Am I wrong?
I can't get
Wasn't
It was told to us
25?
that, last night we were told it was 17,000, so I don't really know.
Yeah, it's a little bit more. It goes from 255 to 282. In that line, just that line item. So 17,000 increase in that line item.
Of part-time.
Yeah.
Right, because some of the increases come through salary
Salaries.
increases, so I was just looking at, they had 17,000 already for part-time help. They asked to double it to 34,000, so my suggestion was just to take 5,000 away, so we're still increasing the part-time to keep up with the workload by $12,000. So that's, so everyone understands, that's where I came from, so they're still getting an increase, but we're reducing that increase by 5,000.
And I'm sorry, so Wendy, did you have any more discussion or?
No, I just wasn't sure with that one.
Okay. I'm fine with that. I see this as being different than the last one. Right, the last one is we're probably gonna blow through it and run over. Here, it really is a matter of cutting back an expense that is in effect discretionary. So, all right, so,
Yeah, my notes are that the clerical assistants, they wanted 24 more hours, and then an inspector Tuesday, Thursday, 16 hours. So that was a 30-hour difference.
I have a concern. I raised my hand too. If we're all so, not we all, if all the departments are so busy, the building, health, all those, and I believe they do need this additional help, I don't wanna cut, I don't want, because it's not that department per se that it's affected. It affects the builders, it affects the homeowners. It really is an impact to the public as well as the office. And if they need it, I don't know, I'm not comfortable. I understand that it's still giving more than.
They're still getting 12
there were.
more, right?
I don't know, they have so
I'm
many.
sorry, Rich had his hand up, trying to be monitored, Paul monitor. Rich?
You know, in their presentation, you know, he laid out that they're doing inspections at the two schools renovation project, and that really takes up a lot of their time. That department brings in over $400,000, so they more than pay for their salaries and to keep the projects moving along in a timely fashion. And I disagree with your cut on it.
That's kind of where I'm feeling like it's gonna have a drastic impact. Here we have, the idea is to build up the grand list with all construction, and I understand there's deadlines that we have to meet, and if we don't have the people to allow us to meet that, then that doesn't help.
Cynthia, you were.
Yeah, no, I hear what Wendy's saying. She feels, I have no feelings, but she feels things, but, my problem with that is, I just think that we're still in category 2 and only 3 accounts in, and I'm not saying we shouldn't cut, we're definitely gonna have to cut, but this is a revenue generating department, and, some departments aren't revenue generating. So my feeling is, again, if we can come back to it, if we have to come back to it, but I don't see the need myself to just cut $5,000 out of their budget.
Brian.
So,
Sorry.
I think I have, and I'm not gonna talk about our department, because that wouldn't be appropriate, but I think I have a very clear understanding of building, the permanent process. I mean, I do it all the time. Building is cyclical, and this is my point. I have no problem with increasing the part-time help for the department. But I also know that we should step it in, and I don't know if just stepping it in as a double, I mean, we're almost doubling it now. My point is in slow years, that normally doesn't go away. And that's been my experience in municipal budgets. Once it's in there, it's in there. So what I'm saying is let's give them the extra help. We're talking about, and you're much, if we divide, what is it? We're still giving them almost, what would be close to 70% of their ask? Right? I mean, that's a pretty reasonable, accommodation, because again, it's just my personal opinion. I don't feel a 4% budget this year, especially with the volatility and other things that are going on, is gonna go over that well. So, it's not like I'm just saying to cut. I'm saying, look, we could still increase it, but let's step it in, and we're giving them 70% of their ask. I think that's pretty reasonable.
I have one more thought too. Question. Did you, go ahead, I'm not cutting you off.
I think I was next in line.
Yep.
I like raising
Don't
these. That's
cut.
nice.
Don't cut each
Institute this
other.
I think
process.
it's taking a long time.
No cutting. No cutting.
I'm actually with Cynthia on this.
What?
In terms of, this is not just a revenue producing, but is also meeting regulations that, these inspections have to be made, the kitchens have to be inspected, seasonal food, additional restaurants, kitchens have to be done. And I think that this is one area where
That's the health department.
Yeah, you're talking about health. This is
building.
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't want to jump
Okay.
ahead. There's somebody else.
Are you watching YouTube?
I'm sorry. I get somebody who watches you.
Yep, you're right.
Wendy, you're up.
Okay. In our account 340, boards and commissions, we have $20,000 in there for floater salaries.
That's the secretarial salaries.
Right, boards and commissions. Is there what did we spend out of that account last year? How much was left?
We'll pull it up.
Yep.
Well, and while he's, oh, there we go.
The account number you're talking about?
It's 340, 101.
Great.
Those were the totals last night from.
11.5.
We spent 11.5 out of the $20,000.
But understand some of that is, sometimes that doesn't get charged. It'll get charged to the department and it'll come out in the transfers. If somebody covers for the first selectman's office,
Right.
we'll charge it to the first selectman's office. So there is,
So would you say comfortably there was $5,000 left?
I wouldn't say I have a comfort level on that at all. We'd have to look at who was used as floaters, because they might not have been charged to that account, they might have been charged to the department. And then they would hit wage adjustments instead of that.
So how, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry, Mr. Terzi.
I just wanna talk to the revenue, and I think it's great that the building department generates revenue, and I have a full understanding how that revenue is generated through permits and whatnot. But if we're gonna use that as a basis not to cut anything, if we say because it generates revenue, that's a reason not to cut it, well, it is what you said.
No,
And,
it's not.
time out, let me finish,
That's what I said.
okay? We wouldn't have made the cuts to Parks and Rec last year, and we wouldn't have made other cuts that we did to revenue-generating things. Just because something generates revenue doesn't mean that you can't cut it, and we're really not, we're saying we're cutting it, we're still increasing it by 70%. I would say it's safe to say that building applications have not risen 70% in a year, okay? So we're giving you 70% more in that line. I think that that's a fair number.
Is it, I'm sorry, go ahead, Rich.
To Brian's point there, the building permit hasn't risen. The workload of the inspectors had because of the school renovations. This is a temporary thing. The building fees were waived for the school building project. So if we didn't waive those fees, there would have been another couple $100,000 in that revenue line there. So it's not the amount of building permit that's really you're seeing for the workload, it's the workload that they have currently with the projects that are going on in town.
Some of them are coming to a close this year.
Yeah, the end of this year, yeah.
So this is, if we get through this year, then we're good to bring it back down to where it was.
Well, there's no big town projects going on. I don't know about residential projects, but, the schools will be winding down in the fall of this coming year.
Cynthia?
Well, this hand-raising thing is going to hell in a handbasket. But I just wanted to correct the record that I don't believe that just because it's a revenue-generating department, means you can't cut. I just think that it is something to weigh in. It's a factor. But my question is for Brad, just to understand what you said. You said that sometimes this comes out of a different account if the part-time help may come out of another account, or then wage contingencies, or it comes out of the department, or I didn't understand that.
So there's certain times that, to cover people being out, that we bring in, sometimes it's retired people or other part-timers.
Yeah,
Sometimes payroll doesn't know that it should come from the floating account, so it might hit the department, and then it would get caught up in the year-end transfers.
okay, so would it change it in the sense that, we don't have a clear understanding of these numbers because it might come out of another account, but you're saying it'll be reconciled at the end of the year? Because it will come out of the proper
It would all come
accounts?
against salaries in a whole, whether it's the department or wage adjustments for
Okay,
this. We just don't usually do transfers in and out of this account.
okay,
I think
I'm trying
what
to
Brad was
understand
trying
it.
to say is that there was only 14,000 spent in secretarial salaries and boards and commission. But if somebody's brought in to replace Dion for a day and it gets charged to the first selectman's office, that department winds up being over by that one person, let's say. That difference is absorbed by the secretarial salaries in the boards and commissions at the end of the year.
okay.
Nick?
That's the first time I raised my hand for the record.
Duly noted.
Good job, good
I
job.
thought it
How's
got
it
quiet
feel?
there when everybody knows.
It's called civility.
We're gonna ask other departments to do with less, and with Brian's point, we are giving them we're giving them everything they had last year and 70% more of the extra salary they're looking for. And, in private industry, we all do more with less, and we have to start doing this a little. We have to live within our means.
Go ahead.
No, I've been waiting,
No,
I'm fine to go last, go ahead.
Okay. I understand that it's a revenue generator. But besides a revenue generator, it's a grand list growth department. Correct? Every little shed that goes up, they increase the grand list, so it's like a twofold benefit.
So by allowing them to get out there and complete the work in a timely manner helps us twofold. So I see it that it's beneficial, like Rich said, that, it's got the schools in there, and then perhaps next year it won't be needed as much. But for this year, I would support keeping it all there.
I'm sorry, any other?
I just have one, can I ask a question before?
Oh, I have a
Brad,
question too.
Can you just clarify for me, and I'm sorry, maybe I'm just not able to sync these things up, but if we take, I think your motion is to take 5,000?
5,000.
So,
That's it.
so if we take 5,000 out, what is actually staying in for additional part-time?
The part-time in the 2020 budget is $20,000. The request is to make it $40,000 for 2021.
So it was 20,000.
Yes, it is.
So it's actually, we're giving them 75% of the ask.
So we would give them 15, not 12, if we took 5,000 out, is that correct?
Yes.
So so OpenGov is correct based on what was changed in the Board of Selectmen's presentation, or no?
The Board of Selectmen did not change this account.
No, they didn't, but I'm asking for other accounts.
Yes,
This is
OpenGov is up to date.
Updated, thank you.
Yeah, I see it here now.
All right, so that we all have the same number,
You
to your
slide
point.
it.
The request is for $40,000, which is $20,000 higher than last year.
You go first and then I'll say my conclusion.
You know, I'm going to probably sound, well, like a broken record, right? What I worry about is a slowdown in the economy, and there's not going to be much building going on. Is there a difference between salary and contracted services? Is one easier to pull back than the other?
Contracted services here is software
That's his car.
costs.
What's that?
Contracted services here is software costs, I don't think
No, I
it's-
know, but if we move, I don't know, salary to me is employee, and you can't cut that off as easily. Contracted services, you can.
Well, if they're-
cut off more easily.
They're part-time employees. So
Can you-
one of them, the part-time inspector, he uses them when he needs them.
Right.
Usually for the last year, they've been so busy, he's been in 2 or 3 days a week. He goes away this time of year to Florida, and he'll be back in April. So he's not working at all right now, which works out well for them because it's a slower building time. But if the economy slows down and they're not doing as many permits, they're not gonna bring in their part-time help.
Okay. So there's no implied agreement that he gets X number of hours a week?
No, there's 2 part-timers he has right now. One is a kid right out of college that's helping out with office work. He has more regular hours because there's always office work. They're trying to catch up because they've been so busy. So he'd probably be more likely to stay on for a while as they caught up on all that if the economy did slow down. But the part-time inspector, he comes in to do inspections. If they're up to date on their inspections, then they're not gonna have to come in.
So the answer is, they can pull back on this part-time just as easily as if it was contracted
Yes.
services.
I guess my last statement is, and again, I know these people, I work with these people all the time. I would never do anything to hurt anyone, really anyone in town, but I really think increasing this line 75% is a fair number, in terms of their request. And I really don't think the $5,000 is gonna hurt the department or hurt our building process in town. I still think the work will get done, and there'll be some relief, and the world's gonna be fine, and when these school projects wrap up next year, hopefully we have another boom in some commercial project or something, and we say we need this money that we put in there. But honestly, I'm not gonna advocate for any cut that I think would hurt a department, and that's what I'm trying to say. I thought this out, this is not just me saying we need to cut, I've given all these lines careful consideration. So I would ask you guys to vote with me and cut this line by 5,000.
Any more question, or we do?
Move the question?
Move the question to that. All right, so we have, I think it's an amended motion on the floor, made, seconded, to reduce Department 180 line 5101, reduce it by $5,000. All those in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
I think that's it.
I do have one more question. Hand up.
Can we finish this?
Okay, so the only no was Wendy.
Right.
And now we have to finish the total.
The number.
Are you okay, Wendy, to finish the total, or is your
Yeah,
question?
that's fine.
All right, so, Brad, the revised total in 180, 101, trying to do some quick math, after a long day, 277,971.
Yes, in that one line, but
In
you
that one,
need
no,
the total.
The
Yeah.
total is 285.
We're coming to the total now. So we do the line first, we just did that, 270, let's do the top. All right, a motion to accept Department 180, 101 at the revised total of 277,971. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, because of the math.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
And now the total. So a motion to accept the modified motion, Department 180 for the total revised now to 285,164. All
I'll
those in,
second it.
okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Wendy?
With the school projects, the Rockwell and Johnson, do we have anything in their budget, the school budget, for like in-kind services for building department, building inspections? We've waived the fee, but there's expenses on the town side because of that project. So would there not be some kind of in-kind, something, wouldn't that be included in the budget, the budget fees?
As building inspectors going over there and inspect things?
Yeah, I mean,
No.
there's a cost to the town.
No, the health inspector goes over there, she
Right.
doesn't charge to go over there.
It's not built into the contract.
Yeah, it's
No,
not,
not-
it's
But I
not,
Just
think you
into
said
the
there's no
project
fees
with
were
like
waived, weren't they?
state
Yeah.
reimbursement
Waived.
No.
or,
no.
Wendy, the permit fees were waived by the town.
no, I understand that, but I didn't know if in the
That's where you would,
whole overall
If there's some other-
project cost, there were in-kind,
Wasn't there, and I think, Rich, you would probably know better than me, wasn't there a line in there though, because we had to have an independent review of those plans, the building inspector
right, that was
has to
paid,
have-
that was paid
Through the
by the
architect.
project.
Through the architect fee, so part of the school project did include, you know,
Third
normally the
party.
building inspector will, like, if we submit a plan, the building inspector will.
Right, so he didn't review the plans, he,
Yeah, they need commercial, it would just take them too long.
Right.
It's a company that does it, so I
Correct.
think that was built in, kinda like you're saying.
Right.
Like kind expenses, I think it was already built into the project.
okay. Just was curious. That's why,
So we're done with that. This is great discussion. It's going slower than I had thought it was going to.
sorry about that, I'll be quiet.
We got some folks in the audience, so I'd like to maybe just jump them ahead so that we can get through there.
Yeah, we're good.
Sticking with the kind of category 2, why don't we go to Park and Rec, Department 380, Parks and Rec. Make a motion to, for purposes of discussion, to accept Department 380 funded amount total at the amount recommended by the selectmen of $1,538,441. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion.
I'd like to make a motion, and I'd like to be able to ask Eileen. I believe we said Clark Park was 9,000 cost.
$9,600.
Okay. So, my motion is to reduce contracted services, line 313, by 9,500, or 9,500 to make it an easy number to work with. And that's based on the purchase of the Ventrac, which we purchased last year under the understanding that it would be used to cut the industrial park.
I would second that.
Say that one more time, I'm sorry.
So, I'm asking for a reduction in contracted services by $9,500. Because last year we agreed to purchase the vent track because we were told that they would be able to cut the park. We've been told that the park is getting cut every 7 to 10 days. I think that's reasonable. Thus my request that we remove $9,500 from contracted services.
Wendy, I'm not sure if you weren't here for that one. There was another line put in the Park and Rec for a private company to come in and cut it more often than 8 to 10 days. And that's what this money is about, 7 to 10 days.
All right, we have a motion, we have a seconded. Any further discussion? Eileen, I'm sorry, I wasn't sure if you were looking for paper or anything?
No,
No, all right, sorry.
but it still will be cut
I don't know. It will
to,
have to
on
be
your
cut.
schedule.
It would have to be cut by my staff.
Right, on your schedule, just same as everything else is
Right,
done.
right.
So Cynthia?
Just to be clear, so right now, you're contracting it out to do Clark Park, is that
No, I
right?
do not.
Okay,
I
'cause it
presently
just says it
mow
in the
now.
open gov.
They do it
Because
themselves.
they cut it last year, the 9,600 was cut last year, so we
Right.
mowed it. So I put it back in.
Okay, cause I'm seeing contracted money for Clark Park and police station, so,
The
You're-
police station is contracted out.
right. And
The
so,
Clark
but you
Park
can
is
do
not.
Clark Park with the Ventrac, with
Now, I
the,
can do that with another mower because
Okay.
the Ventrac frees us up to do other things because it saves man hours. Like, one person can do what 3 people do with the Ventrac now. So those 3 people are free to go and mow other areas.
It's just a different model.
okay.
Don't worry
I
about
thought the
that.
Ventrac was a
Ventrac
fancy
saves us
one that
time.
could like go up a wall or
Yes,
something.
yep,
They
yep.
do rough areas
And
with
instead
it.
of 3 people or 4 people having to weed whack, one person can do it.
I got it.
And Brian, just to make sure I'm hearing correctly, I may not be, it's 9,600, right? That's what's
I just said 9,500 to make it a,
even number.
just an even number, you know. I'm sure she'll have a snow thing that she needs to throw extra salt or something. I don't know, one of these
Not this
things.
one.
I was just trying to, you know.
Yep. All right,
say
any,
9,500.
Wendy?
I just wanna verify that this is not gonna put an undue burden on Park and Rec. That this is going to be just part of your normal schedule.
Mhm. At a 7 to 10 day
Right.
schedule, not necessarily what the
They,
park
right,
people
but,
want.
okay.
Can I ask a question? So Eileen, I know this is really pushing the limits, but I'm wondering, like, why does the police station get vended out for mowing?
Because when the new police station, it's a much larger area than what we presently had mowed previously. And we felt like that to get it properly upkeep with all the trees and everything that's there, that having someone come in that does the school complex on the 7-day schedule is better for that area.
So the school complex is vended out as well?
Just some areas, there's some small islands are, so the same company does the police station.
Nick, I think was up.
Eileen, it's just, under contractor services, it says contract mowing for Clark Park and police station, that's 42,000. A couple more lines down, it says police station mow and trim for another 10,000.
No, the police station is 10, the total was
Oh, I'm sorry, those
39.
numbers are all added up
Yeah,
together.
the
Excuse
total
me.
for the whole
I
account
see that.
is
I
39
apologize.
right now.
Oh, Cynthia, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I just wanna understand that this is not in anywhere in the police budget, any of this contracted services for mowing or
There was mulch in there.
Yeah,
the
if I-
mulch, I know, remember the mulch. Is there any contracted service for mowing the police station in the police budget? That's what I wanna know, no? Okay, cause it makes sense to me that anything to do with any sort of maintenance of grounds would be, even if it was a contracted service, should be in your budget, you know, Eileen's budget, so I just wanna make sure
And
that,
Snow plowing's in the highway department. I
well,
believe.
that's,
Yeah.
it's a little different.
Yeah.
A little different. I
Brian?
meant like, you know, mowing
There-
grass.
There is 5,000 in the police budget, though, you said for mulch and
That's
other
the
stuff like
mulch.
that, correct?
Yeah, but we're
That's gonna.
gonna take that out.
Yeah,
because
I just
it's-
wanna make sure that there is some services in the police
Promotion.
budget for that.
Okay, any more discussion?
No.
All right, so let's do that, we're gonna have to do the two lines, so first, I guess it's an amended motion, department, bear with me.
380.
Yeah, flip the page, sorry. 380, account 313, revised total, and again, Brad kinda, it's for 9,500, so check my math, 33,272.
32,972.
Thank you for checking my math. 32, come again?
32,972.
972. So that's 9,500, right?
Yes.
All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. Opposed? Oh, wait, maybe I'm missing that number. Okay, then now we have to do the total for department, I'm sorry. go ahead.
Before we do that, Rich, can you refresh my memory about the line 315, park maintenance and repairs? It was reduced by selectmen by 15,000.
No, I can't, wait this second. Was it something that was going to, capital non-recurring?
Yeah.
I thought so, that was,
Just-
I think that was one of the parks, right?
Well, we, in there was we could do fitness equipment for McCower. which would
Right,
be
and that was gonna come out of the CNR.
So, I guess, there was no discussion, but that, I'm assuming, I'm not sure what, you just did the bottom line, so.
There was a $12,000 increase in that account.
A
It was
reduction last
45, then it was 57.
Right,
and-
last year was reduced by 12, so
Right,
I put
so,
in
and
the
you brought
12
it back
back.
up to 57,
Right,
and Matt just took 15 out of that account.
Of
Okay.
that account,
Had nothing to do with the CNR, it just
I don't
took
think
it
so.
out.
out of which,
Park
315.
315, park maintenance and repair.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
Is it question time still? I mean, where are the expenses for the dog park and moving the well? Where do those lie?
Well, they would be, there's 11,000 for moving the well in the 22,000 that says park improvements. So, like, if 15 comes out, then you got to, like, figure, you know what I mean? I would have to
15 is already-
decide which one, you know.
15 is already out of there,
Right,
right?
so if that goes out, that,
We don't improve the dog
I
park
don't
this
improve
year.
I could not, there's a chance I wouldn't improve the dog park.
Okay.
And it's a $15,000 price tag, basically.
Yeah, well, it's about 11,000, so
Wasn't it 11 to move the well and?
move the well, 15 to move the fence. But I was hoping to have the group raise money for moving,
So you're saying
like a
11?
volunteer group to do that.
Yeah.
So you sit there?
Yeah, I just wanna understand, because in my notes from the Board of Selectmen meeting, I have that the Board of Selectmen approved, 1538350. Is that correct?
The Board of Selectmen approved 1538441.
Oh. That, and that, this is what Richie handed out, and it's not the same. It's a different number.
What was that number?
3835.
Yeah, that's what I had.
that's what it says.
1538350.
Oh,
That's
correct.
that's right, Cynthia.
Okay,
Which
thank
one,
you.
the 1538441?
No,
No,
it's 1553441. Oh, it's making up.
The requested was the 1553441. The approved was the 1538350.
This was requested.
So can I say that?
Then the
this one
number,
wasn't reduced.
then the number we just used is wrong, because what we have in the sheet is 1,538,441.
Yeah, you haven't voted on that yet, but yeah.
So that's the right total.
Yeah,
know it's
you
only a
took
couple-
out you took out 15,000 from the requested, when you take out 15,000 from the requested, you get to the 1538441.
Right.
All right, so let's
So
just
the
use,
$91 difference.
all right, so let's use what's on our sheets and we'll figure something about the $91.
What sheets are we talking about?
The ones that were Bob handed out and then Rich handed
This-
out? Yeah. All right, if you look on this.
Are we using this one? Or are
We
we
need
using
to know,
this?
so.
I don't use that one, I use that one. Not that one, the other one.
This one, right? This is what was handed out. I think we all have this,
That's-
right?
Yeah, I'm working off both of them.
Okay, yep. And this, I'm doing the same. If they agree, we're
Yeah, the
happy.
numbers seem right so far.
But
And
shouldn't it agree with OpenGov? What am I missing?
Which one's an open door?
This is just open up.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like the
It's
numbers are
one
mapping.
five five three four four one.
I mean, it's a small amount
Yeah,
of money,
that's
but
what we're,
yeah,
But it's not
It's
on
not
here.
yeah, this is, we're not, this is not accurate.
So are you showing
So
that the
we're using
Park and
this,
Rec
which is like-
bottom line for the
That's fine.
account would be 1,528,941 after the 9,500
There is no
cut?
Hold on.
Not the cut that they just made, the one that the Board of Selectmen made.
No, the number that we have apparently has the Board of Selectmen's reduction in it.
The 1,538,350.
No, the 1,538.
They had that on their schedule here. I don't know where this number came from. The number should be, I think, 1,538,441.
That's the number that.
Minus.
That's in the sheet.
Minus the
95.
$9,500.
Right.
So that'd be the 1,528,941?
That's not what,
okay.
that's not what Matt has come up with.
I don't know where he got the number.
Well, I have two documents that say.
That was
Exactly.
Matt's PowerPoint, Richie said.
Right.
Yep.
Well, look, here's what we're going to do, right? We got two sets of documents that have in the Park and Rec, total amount, $1,538,441. Let's use that as our reference.
Oh, good.
Say it
That's
again,
this
say your number
printed
again.
sheet.
$1,538,441.
Gee, just
I think it's
If-
1538355.
Excuse me.
That's what we're just saying.
It is,
That's-
that's we're changing it.
Bob, if you take the original number and you subtract off the 15,
Crazy.
it's the 441 figure, 1,538,441.
Yeah, but we,
Yeah.
right.
That's
So
what
the
we got.
PowerPoint is wrong.
Yeah, we're not,
Exactly.
that's why I'm saying we
Okay,
use the
we're
two
gonna
sheets that
use
you
the-
handed out.
The sheets that
Yes,
we
this,
worked on,
Okay.
exactly.
not the PowerPoint.
Yeah, but that was that was the number the Board of Selectmen voted on.
I wanna vote.
Yeah, that's what he presented to us.
That's what we presented to the.
Yes, but the Board of Finance
So
can make
we're
it
gonna
whatever
have to
they
go
want,
back and
so-
correct
Well,
our,
then, yeah, I guess you
Well, I'm sorry, come on, hold on, let's
if you wanna do that.
Get back to
Order in the
Henry's.
court,
get back to Henry.
I'd like to make a
Your
motion.
Honor.
I think we already have a motion on the floor.
Well,
Sorry.
before,
Oh, we do?
Did we pass that
Didn't you
one?
make a
Yes.
motion?
We voted on it, it passed. It was the 9,500 that we took.
now
out.
we have to just do the
Well, I
total
must
for
have
the-
been
I wanna make
zoning.
another motion.
Before we do
I
total.
wanna make
But
a
before we do the total, there might be some more.
Okay, fair enough. Go.
I'd like to make a motion, account, I'm sorry, 380,206, maintenance and supplies, to cut 5,000. There was a $10,000 increase, so we cut it down from 123 to 118,629.
Second.
I'm sorry, what line was that?
Maintenance.
380,206.
And what's the dollar adjustment?
With the increase, again, it's 4% is not gonna go, we just have to do with less.
He motioned to cut 5,000.
Oh, I'm sorry, 5,000. Was that the question?
Yeah, that's the question.
I'm sorry.
And Nick, I'm sorry, what's the account again?
206,
206.
380,206.
Got it, equipment maintenance.
No, maintenance and
Maintenance and
supplies.
supplies.
So that includes the fertilizers, right, Eileen, all that stuff?
It's the paint, it's everything that I use to take care of fields, make them safe, make them ready for high school games. It's all cleaning bathrooms, cleaning supplies, renting porta potties. It's everything that my maintenance department uses to operate.
Well, can we find out what the actual expense was last year?
The 2019 actual expense was 169.
It was one,
So it's over.
169?
Yes. The year before was 154.
And when, Arlene, when you budgeted 123, was there some perception that would be less?
I'm trying to do less, but when we get extra tournaments, any requests for extra baseball tournaments, softball tournaments, extra cleaning for porta potties, extra dumping of dumpsters, extra pickup of garbage that's left at the parks, that all adds up to extra cost that comes in.
Is there any revenue that comes in though as a result?
It's all
of
the
those?
rental of baseball
Is the dog
games,
park still
like
there?
a group that rents Hunt Field, there's revenue generated from that.
So when you balance the revenue versus the maintenance and supplies, what was the actual cost?
And then you can,
If we're, see what I'm saying? So if part of this maintenance and supplies is because she has to put the chalk down or whatever for a baseball field and we're getting reimbursed for that, what was the actual cost of the town in maintenance and supplies? Is what
I
I'm
don't have
asking.
that income broken down. I mean, I can look at the, I can pull it out, but I don't have that right here.
He's,
Well, it's not broken, my
Oh, I'd like to
income
pull
comes
back
in
my
in a
motion.
lump
I'm
sum,
on the
like,
income part.
I don't have it broken down like rental, baseball, field
Okay, Nick.
rentals was this.
Okay.
Nick
Did you ever
withdrew
go in the
his,
spring with the fence, the tree came down and that was
At
charged?
Mitchell Park, there's.
Nick withdrew his motion, so let's move on to the
Okay.
next thing. I think we got, Cynthia had a question, I think then Dee, you wanted to make another.
I wanna make a motion to, the dog park's in there for 11,000, right?
In park improvements, there's 22,000 that I could allocate and use to enlarge the dog park.
Okay, well, I would
If I
like to
could.
make a motion to cut that account by 11,000.
I
More?
We already cut it by
9,500.
9,500.
No.
Okay, well then, whatever the
15,000.
remainder.
No, you already
No,
cut
I
it by
cut contracted
15.
services by
Board-
9,500.
Board of
You
Selectmen
get
did
the commission
15,
Board of Selectmen cut it by 50.
Okay,
and then we did 95.
the revenue.
No,
based on-
95
It
is
was
a
cut
different
by
account.
Board of
Oh,
but what will
sorry.
make it come to 11,000?
We cut more than 11. We cut excuse me, the
Selectmen.
Board of Selectmen cut 15,000.
Okay, so I guess,
So it's
So
in
it's
here
your
as
motion,
so
twenty-two,
yours is
still
is
standing?
that correct?
Huh?
Eileen?
Are you rescinding?
No,
So
I
it
have to
was
rescind it.
it was
Okay.
37? It's in here as 22.
Well, the total was 57, but for the park improvements itself, it's 22. So they cut the bottom line with 15,000, so
Oh, they cut, I see, they cut the,
In OpenGov, if you scroll down, there's a new line item that says minus 15,000.
Did you just do that, Fred?
Yeah, measure down.
that's why. Let me refresh the page.
To answer Brian's earlier question, Eileen came in over her revenue projection for 2019 by $68,000.
Yay.
And was that a result of?
It's a result of everything Park and Rec does. It's not broken down by what relates to maintenance and what relates to programs. It's, all Eileen's revenue goes to that account.
Dee, did you have a?
so Eileen, I guess, my next question, and not that I don't think these are really nice things for the town to have, the dog park and the fitness equipment at Macauer and that kind of thing, but it's a tight budget this year, right? So what is the cost of the fitness equipment at Macauer?
there's two different units, one's like 8,000 and the other one is like 12,000.
Are those still in here, or?
Well, again, they're in under the park improvement, so like if I don't get them, you know what I mean, I don't wanna say if I don't get the money, but then you just don't do
Where's
it
that
unless
20
it's taken out and put into non-recurring, which I don't know.
So I just need some help, Brad. Where does that reside? What line am I looking at for that?
So in the 5315 account, there's $22,000 for park improvements. The Board of Selectmen cut $15,000 from 5315. They did not specify what in that account they wanted to cut. They just took $15,000 out of it.
But Eileen is left with $22,000 in there, is that
No,
correct?
No,
she
7,000.
requested 57, there's still $42,000 in it. Right, I think?
Yeah, 42.
Yes.
Yes. Her 2020 budget for that account was 45,000,
So it's lower than it was last year.
correct.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Any other accounts within Department 380? Not hearing any, then we have to do the motion on the total. So make a motion on the total of Department 380 to be $1,528,941, which reflects the $9,500 adjustment we made to line 313. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Done.
Nay.
No, sorry, yep. All right, trying to bounce
Who
around.
seconded that?
I did.
Thank you.
Let's do 350 Health Department. To begin the discussion, I'll make a motion that we accept Department 350 at the Board of Selectmen's suggested amount of $375,983.
Second?
Discussion.
I'll go first.
Wendy?
Currently, we have funding in place for a full-time position that you've not been able to fill, and we've been.
Still.
It is filled?
Still, we started today.
Woo-hoo!
But we're on our back a lot.
That's fine, I'm just thrilled that,
Me too.
Yay.
Thank you. Well, our legal liabilities, thank you.
then I have nothing, no questions.
Any other, any more discussion on Department 350?
Laura,
Quiet.
with the increased personnel now kind of relieving some of your responsibilities, I know you're
It's a
shaking.
deficit. We had that position, we lost it for 3 years, and then we got it
I
back.
understand. I'm asking about contracted services.
Yep.
Is there any reduction that's not gonna be, detrimental to your department now that you have a full-time helper?
Honestly, no. If you listen to every agency that came before you, the health department works with every single one of them. And as you learn, the state of Connecticut, and it's on open.gov, you asked for some regulations, so I didn't give you the whole book, but I gave you the most prevalent ones for now. They passed the new salon statutes that say that the local health departments will inspect all nail, barber, hair, tattoo, massage. We don't have the staff to do it. It's our legal responsibility and our liability. It's not, we are going to try with the selectmen, once we get the ordinance in place with the attorney longer, to try to have, the revenue that's paid that we can by law to the businesses. But we don't wanna hurt the businesses, but we're gonna try to cover the contracted service worker that does the legally responsive work. But right now, and I did give you a summary sheet and tried to show every penny what tasks that they went to, and it's on open.gov, and the laws that pertain. But if we don't do it, we have some liability and legal risks.
Wendy?
Sorry. With the potential pandemic, coronavirus, this whatever it's called now, do you think that it would be wise for the town, whether it be now or in the future months, to appropriate a certain amount to be used to cover any costs, any future costs associated with the plague? Or at that time,
We're all gonna die.
With the respiratory
Oh, that's
virus.
right, there we go, that's a nice
The
one.
selectmen had asked me, and, if you looked at my budget, I always forewarn you in asterisk that, if we have an issue, that we rise to do that. But right now, we're looking to see, through, the federal government and the state, if there's going to be some crisis funds that come through.
Okay.
So we're monitoring that, and we are already doing double time, Mr. Galliford and Matt and I. And I feel like if we all work together, we'll have the best result possible. But thank you for asking. I think that Bob will keep you in the loop on that. I email him with Matt, and so he would keep you apprised. We could, if people are self-monitoring at home and they need, supplies, then we will seek as best we can with town volunteers and Lisa and Megan to do everything like this town has always done. But we will keep you, apprised of that as we
Okay.
continue.
Okay, not hearing any more discussion, we'll move the motion. So all those in favor of accepting Department 350 at the Board of Selectmen recommended amount of $375,983, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Senior Center, Department 430, I'll make a motion for discussion purposes to accept the Department 430 funding as recommended by the Board of Selectmen at a level of $243,223.
I'll second.
Discussion.
Could I get a refresh on the capital equipment adjustment? I assume that's moved to CNR, but what is that? That 403 account?
I don't know what's moved.
It was a
This is
refrigerator,
capital
a
equipment.
washing machines.
Washer and dryer,
The refrigerator.
is
The
it being moved
tables.
to the general fund?
No, to capital non-recurring.
Oh.
Okay, question.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Cynthia. Sure.
So, is that, amount for refrigerator, washer, and a dryer?
Washer and dryer, no refrigerator. Oh, the refrigerator, right.
So 3 appliances for $5,700.
Well, there's a commercial refrigerator and a commercial freezer, and then a washer and dryer.
Okay. I don't know how much, I know how much washer and dryer costs, I don't really.
And there's storage cabinets too, right?
And table, yeah.
Oh, now there's storage cabinets.
That was in our
Been
presentation.
there all along, yeah, exactly.
I worked
Okay.
Okay, not here, any more discussion?
I just need a refresh on the salary increase. Is that additional help?
Salary increase?
Yeah, it looks like there was a 6% salary increase, unless I'm not seeing this properly.
You didn't. We put in the salaries based on the
contract
finance
checks.
department puts it in based on contracts. And one of our employees is newer, so there's a step in there also. And I think there was there's an increase in the, amount that the van drivers make. We were having issues staffing it.
So we had to raise the price of the salary
But
to get someone.
when you look at the 2 years, you gotta remember last year, the contract was negotiated, so you got the retros in there. And so last year's number that's here is really the prior year, and then they made up the number, so it looks like it's bigger than it really is. I mean, they got their increases, but it's really, they're catching up. It's a percentage there, but the percentage represents 2 years when it comes
But
down.
it's still hitting this budget, yeah. Okay. Thank you.
No more discussion? All right, we'll put up for a vote, all those in favor of accepting the department. Sorry, what's that? Yes, I think.
I'm just looking at this and there's another amount of, let me see. Oh, I thought I saw, never mind. No, I didn't see that correctly. Move on, carry on.
I'd like to make one comment. Lisa, I want to thank you for this analysis on the terms of the $10,000 more project and your analysis of how that's going to be self-sustaining. So thank you for doing that extra work.
Okay. Are we ready?
We're good.
Excellent. All those in favor of accepting the Department 430 amount as recommended by the Board of Selectmen for $243,223, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Let's do 435 library. Make a motion to accept the Department 435 library amount as the Board of Selectmen have recommended for an amount of $889,503.
I'll second.
Discussion. Cynthia?
I guess maybe this is for Richie, I just don't remember, what was why was that amount picked for the library, the 15,000?
It was our understanding that there was some capital equipment there in line 5403 that was gonna go to the CNR. And speaking to the library people the other
Right.
day, they didn't think there was any
There-
capital equipment.
There aren't any.
Richie, that was an adjustment last year of $15,000 to the bottom line. That's what that 15,000 was. Because we can't direct it to an individual account, just like we can't do the Board of Ed to any specific accounts.
And that's.
So that adjustment last year to their account, the way it shows up, as a minus 15,000 is an adjustment to the entire account.
But
From last
And
it's showing
yeah,
it,
and
I'm
it's
sorry,
up
I'm
to
still
them to
asking
make
a question.
their decision, the library board, where they're gonna allocate that 15,000 to.
It's
Last
just,
year?
it's
What
just,
about-
it's a placeholder,
That's all it
right?
is.
Because we have only bottom line authority
I-
over the library.
Yeah.
So because all of the accounts show up on OpenGov, there's no way of spreading it because they'll spend the money
Right,
as they see.
it's like the school, or,
Yeah,
yes, I understand that, so
the
I'm
15,000 is just a placeholder.
I don't know what placeholder means, it's cut out from the bottom line, that's, yeah, I understand that. I'm wondering what the rationale was, if in fact you thought there were capital projects, but we find out there aren't any capital projects.
That's just the line that was used. That's all it is. It wasn't capital projects. It was a bottom line adjustment to the library of 15,000 last year. So just like this year, if you made a $20,000 adjustment, it would appear on that line, because we can't put it to any individual account.
But I'm just asking, what, that's an amount from the bottom line, 15,000. It says right here that it was moved, or has to go, it's going through CNR.
Right,
says
our
it right on-
notes that Matt gave us,
Yeah, I'm just trying to
In his
understand
presentation.
I'm telling you what it was.
what that 15,000.
just a
It's just a
general-
placeholder for
it's
the.
just a general
That's all it
reduction,
is.
no
it
capital.
should-
So this is
I
incorrect
know,
information on this
but-
PowerPoint.
Yes.
Is that what we're saying?
Okay, I just need to clarify something. In one scenario, they essentially keep $15,000 and it's moved over to CNR because they think, because as if it's a project. In scenario two, they lose $15,000. So those are two separate scenarios.
I understand.
So I understand where it comes from, out of the bottom line. My question is, why is it being cut? Like, what was the philosophy behind it? I know we can't say how they should cut it, but I'm saying because we found out there are no capital projects, why would it be cut? Maybe there needs to be another motion, because that sounds like a mistake to me.
So,
Well, you were saying this is from last year.
It's last year's.
How does it get rolled over to this year's budget?
It was cut both years. Last year, the Board of Finance cut $15,000 from the library. This year, the Board of Selectmen has cut $15,000 from the library.
It's just the bottom line.
Right, but,
Why? Cynthia just wants to know
no,
why.
I wanna know, because
Was there
initially, they thought there was a capital project to go to CNR.
right, and
I-
that, stop right there.
Okay.
There is no capital project.
That's
Right.
right, newsflash, no
No.
capital
Right.
project.
So the first
Put
selectman.
it back.
I think that was just a misquote.
Misprint. Bob, the selectman put it on his PowerPoint, but it really wasn't supposed to say that.
Oh,
Apparently, the first selectman made the recommendation to the Board of Selectmen to cut the library board by $15,000.
Right.
And that's the line that fell on to show the reduction.
So this is just an error.
It just, no,
It
it
should have
just,
said that on the PowerPoint.
that's right.
yeah.
And it's
right.
coincidental, maybe, that the 15,000 number shows up twice.
From last year and this year.
Yes. Now, the library submitted a request for $904,503.
Mhm.
And the Board of Selectmen took 15,000 from that balance to get us to the 889,503. And the way it's shown in OpenGov doesn't explain it well.
Got it.
I'm sorry, but.
Oh, I just,
I just had the,
Are you-
go ahead.
I just wanna make sure, the library board determines, the Board of Finance just gives them a number, right? And you guys determine what you wanna do with that money, it's not are saying that it's coming out of any line, it's just we're cutting this, correct? Alright, so it's really a non-issue. The Board of Selectmen decided to cut 15,000 from.
For
the
no
line.
apparent reason,
That's-
for no stated
no
reason.
rationale.
No rational, I
Hold
mean,
on.
that's the point I think Cindy's trying to make, which is.
No, it says something on the map.
Well, it did say
paperwork.
something, and we said that that was not true at the time it was said. So it was like, oh, well, we just wanna take $15,000 because we're trying to get to a
Yeah,
number.
I'm not gonna argue the rationale, I just wanna make sure that the Board of Selectmen agreed to cut 15,000
Correct.
total from your budget,
I
correct?
think
So there's no confusion.
the concern just is when you're going through all the other budgets, you ask, what's the impact gonna be when you cut from
I
salaries?
was just gonna ask that.
What's the impact gonna be when you cut from contracts? In the library budget, you just take 15, you don't ask what the impact's gonna be. You're not concerned how it's gonna impact the community, the staff. It's just a cut. Whereas every other department, we examine contracts, we examine hours and salaries, that's the concern.
May I just-
But, oh,
I just wanna-
okay.
No, because
Carry on.
I did look at your budget, and I'm not giving them their rationale at all. But I did see for, books and materials, there was an increase of 5,000, and I'm not saying whether there's a value to that or not, but I'm saying, okay, so we maintain this year. It's not like this board didn't look at the selectmen's cut and give any cuts. I've been looking at all these budgets. So I just don't want you getting the impression that, I'm not looking at your budget and saying, I don't care, it's just the library. I think that's not true. It's just, I did look at the cut, I did look at the lines, you know what I mean, and to
Yeah.
see, what's the total effect, right? So that's all I'm trying to say. And again, they had their decisions, but to say we don't look at it, I don't think it's a fair statement, because I do look at the budgets,
Well, thank you, I appreciate that.
okay?
Cynthia?
Yeah, so, it actually, with just a bottom line cut, you actually have more control over the budget than if we're cutting individual lines in other accounts. Like there's the Board of Ed, the library, and
That's it.
That's it.
that's it, those two. So, so tell us what the impact, like, would you have to, is there certain services that you would definitely have to cut? That's all I wanna know.
Well, with these cuts, so the increase for cleaning supplies is gone, okay. Then we lose, equipment for increases over time, okay. But then you start getting into materials. Material costs go up every year. We didn't get an increase last year to that level because the majority of the increase had to go to salaries. So over time, as inflation takes place and things become more expensive, that's naturally shrinking the amount of content we can provide. So that becomes an issue. You get into education, we ask for more, we can sustain, but it will mean less training for our staff, which means less internal programming and ability to make improvements without relying on outsourcing. Now, with that 15,000, that cuts $11,887 of increases to all the budget lines aside from salaries. That means now that about $3,200 is gonna be coming out of salaries just with this cut. So if you continue to cut, it will have to come from salaries. And we do have contractual obligations like every other department.
So, but Megan, you asked for a 1% increase, right? And,
That's all.
and you're but you're getting a 0.79,
We asked for a 2.5% increase.
it says 1%.
No,
That's what
that's
the
wrong.
15 on.
The
The
numbers,
904,553 is 1%.
The original request was 904, 16,000 would come out like 2%, just.
I mean, it says 1% next to it, so I don't.
No,
know.
that's where they're at
That's where it's at.
0.99 after.
With the 15
after
the selectmen
After
took
the
out.
selectmen cut the 15, it brings it down to 0.99.
to
So
do
you
the-
need to look two lines over where 2019, 2020 was 882, 492. They requested 904,503, so that's where you get the 2% increase. And then back out the 15,000, it comes down to a 0.99 increase for this year.
A point what, right?
roughly 0.99. It was like 0.97 something, I think.
So it could round off to 1%.
It was like 0.97 something.
It's a $7,000 increase on an $882,000 base.
So that's where the confusion came from.
I move the question.
I'm sorry,
Am
one,
I allowed to ask a question?
not technically.
You're all friends, even if I don't agree.
If you blurt it out,
Do
someone might
you,
answer
does the
it.
Board of Finance have to accept the selectmen's recommendation?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
I move the question.
I'll second.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
That takes
so
care
now
of
we're,
that.
Did you have this further discussion, Cynthia?
Yeah, I just had a quick question.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't.
I'll withdraw.
Withdraw, let you talk.
So basically, Megan, so when you say contractual obligations, so are you saying that you're not gonna be able to meet contractual obligations of $3,200? Is that what you're saying? I
I'm
just wanna
saying that
understand.
a good part of the salary increase is contractual. So depending, with the cuts we have right now, we're not meeting all of them.
What are the ramifications of that?
Reducing staff hours, not staffing desks to their full capacity, reducing our outreach within the community.
Hours of operation.
Yeah.
New books.
Well, we've already cut, that budget's already been cut.
We don't cut that
Well,
budget.
no, but with the 1,500 cut already, 15,000, thank you. That already takes away all of the increases to every other budget line but salaries, well,
Okay.
including salaries at 3,200.
But we don't, you get to decide.
No, we don't,
What you
really
fund.
don't get to
No, I
decide.
understand.
Realistically, I
Right.
mean, we all know that. You have a salary line item, you have the other items, you see what it is, you saw what the increases are, you know that when you take the 15,000, and to really say, we get to choose, we really don't. There's only so many things, and we do have contractual obligations now, with salary, so, there is no other choice. It's
I don't wanna-
87% of our budget.
I don't wanna belabor the issue about salaries and
76.
contracts, but my understanding, cause it's always contractual, that there's no wiggle room there, that you're not gonna be reducing hours. If you have contracts with the employees, if the union contracts, those aren't like there's no wiggle room there. Do you know what I'm getting at? I'm just trying to understand it.
No, and
So how can?
Well, your wiggle room is so while their rate would remain something, their hours, the actual number of hours that they would work would be, what would be impacted.
Okay,
So the rate,
I get it now.
so the rate is the same, but the number of hours that you're paying for would have to
I
be
got it.
diminished.
All right, thanks.
And I'm sorry, I said it was 87%, I'm sorry, it's 76%.
No. Okay, any more discussion? All those in favor of accepting the Department 435 total budget as recommended by the Board of Selectmen at $889,503?
Aye.
Please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let's go to Department 310, Bethel Fire Department. For purposes of discussion, I'll make a motion that we accept the Department 310, Bethel Fire Department, at the level proposed by the Board of Selectmen, $182,900.
I'll second.
Discussion.
Rich, was there, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Rich, was there some equipment here that was put into the
That's
capital
gotta go-
account?
yeah, correct.
But I think we got this, I don't know, all the days, all the nights are blurring together, but we got this, and it looks like for BFD, we've got, air packs, hydraulic ram, and portable radios. Well, in capital non-recurring, Tommy Galliford did update the estimate for the portable radios, so we don't have to really deal with that until it comes to the board for purposes of approving it in capital non-recurring.
So that $850 reflects those items that we're gonna fund from capital non-recurring?
I don't know what that 850
Oh,
is.
Board of Selectmen favor?
The capital non-recurring is more significantly more.
Oh, no, I know that, but in the department.
Yeah. Oh, Brian?
Is, under the equipment and supplies, is there anything else that we can remove to capital non-reoccurring?
And to dovetail on that, like, what's in there?
Right, like, is there
What is
something,
that?
is there something that we can move to capital non-reoccurring?
I think it's all been moved.
Well, then move.
Yeah, it's at 0.
Somebody microwaving something.
Kershaw's pitching against Cueto tonight, so.
Oh, there you go. Happy birthday.
Any further discussion?
So are we
Yeah,
getting a
basically flat.
description of what's in equipment and supplies or no?
I'm sorry, ask again,
Is
please?
there a description of what's in equipment and supplies?
Is there any other equipment we can pull out?
Just to prove, not that they don't get it, just to move it to capital non-reoccurring.
So it doesn't
right?
inflate
That's
their
what
budget.
That's what the overall number.
Is there no one here to represent?
Capital non-recurring, at least is the way I think about it, are for items that are gonna break, right? Not, that aren't in the nature of supplies or.
Well, they had equipment, so there could be no equipment.
We have,
Oh,
Because I remember we
we
talked
were
about
told
the,
36 units of radios.
I thought they also
portable
talked
radios.
about a new Hearst tool. Isn't there some battery for the school? Or something? The RAM, so did we move that to
Those
capital
are-
non-reoccurring? Yeah.
Those are the
So
things I,
this is just basic upkeep and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's
Yes.
just discussion, that's all.
air packs, hydraulic rams, and radios, that's it.
Portable radios,
Yeah, that's,
For Stony Hill.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, not hearing any more discussion? All those in favor of accepting the Board of Selectmen's recommendation for Department 310 of, in an amount of $182,900, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, passed. Next department, 320, Stony Hill Fire Department. For purposes of discussion, I'll make a motion that we accept the Board of Selectmen's recommended funding of $142,750. Need a second?
Second?
Discussion.
Flat budget again.
Same thing as far as those capital items that came to capital return.
Maybe it was 320.
I'll spend
Right. Any discussion? Okay, not hearing any. All those in favor of accepting Department 320 as recommended by the Board of Selectmen at an amount of $142,750, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Done. We've got a few more Category 2 items. We've got folks here from the police department. My recommendation would be to just jump over to police. And we can suffer through the rest of it on our own.
it. Is that a category 2? Because I don't have it listed.
No, it's a
in my-
Category 3.
Right. Did we get through all the category 2s?
No, that's what I just said. We still have a few to go through.
How many more do we have?
Oh, you have the public works and transfer
Yep.
stations.
Data process, the number is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 more, and they are professionals, they are fleet maintenance, public works, transfer station, planning and zoning, building maintenance, tree warden, and intra-government agency subsidies. No, we did that one. So just those ones I just mentioned.
Bob?
You think we can get through them quick?
No, I agree with you. I mean, there's people here on their off time, there's people here who are employees. We've given the same courtesy
Yep.
to other departments. Let's just tackle the PD, and if it takes the rest of the night, it's the rest of the night, and we'll pick up with twos tomorrow. But in fairness to the people who come here on their days off and time off, we should probably hear the police department. Is my opinion, we'll have to vote on it, right?
Well, and I think we've proven, that these accounts take more than what we thought.
Yeah, I think Bob was setting the agenda, and I agree with the, moving in with the police department.
Yeah.
All right.
I
You don't hear that too often. What'd you say? Hoorah, thank you.
You're not gonna
All right.
arrest us, are you?
I know, but at least they did that, that's very nice.
Okay, so we're good?
Yeah, let's find out how many other accounts.
So let's go to Department 360, the Police Department. For purposes of discussion, I will make a motion that we accept the funding as recommended by the Board of Selectmen at a level of $4,904,692.
Second?
Discussion.
Chief, my computer's down. In the salaries, how much of that is total overtime? Because if I don't have it broken down on this sheet. So what was the request for overtime? Do we have that? Or, I bet you Brad has it, right?
280? I'm just guessing, but it was 280. Is that all right?
It's broken down, training overtime was 54,000, dispatch overtime is 90,000, police overtime, 215,000. The Board of Selectmen reduced overtime by 54,000.
Total between the three.
Yes. They didn't
Which
specify.
overtime? The police overtime?
They reduced overtime by 54,000, they didn't specify police dispatch.
It's all in one line, it's just a subsection broken down.
Yes.
So there's a line number and everything's broken down. So what's left in that account right now? Total, not since they cut it. What we're
The
left.
total salary line is 446.
No, overtime.
Are you making me math? Let's see.
No, you are the assistant controller.
Well, it's 305 when you include 215 in police and another 90 in dispatch, so you're at 305.
Minus,
Nope, that's with the
That's-
reduction,
okay.
because the training overtime happened to be 54,000.
And what was the total expense of overtime if we look at it over 5 years, if we could average it out? All right, can you do that without the side?
The last completed year is the next.
Or if we wanna go back last year, what was the total cost of overtime?
Just their overtime line, not their training overtime. In 2019, 282,000. 2018, 267,000. 2017, 275,000.
And then it'll drop down because of dispatchers went.
16, 254.
Mr. Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. Go, I was looking at the numbers.
If the 5,000 for the mulch is still in here, I would like to make a motion to reduce contracted services 5313 by $5,000.
And to be clear, the reason why we're doing that is that we were told that the Park and Rec Department will do that.
They
motion.
can mulch it up.
I would second that.
And it was one of those accounts where I think we saw it in a couple different places, and we want it in just one place,
Yeah.
or a couple items, excuse me, an item in a couple different
Yep.
places. And how was it? Excuse me.
That's 313.
Mm-hmm.
5313?
Yeah.
5313.
5313.
That was contract.
Contract services.
Let me just get this. There it is, okay. All right, so amended motion to account, Department 360, account 313, to reduce the 136,555 by $5,000, revised total 131,555. Need a second?
Second.
Oh, Nick seconded it,
Oh,
yeah.
did you? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Losing my hearing. What?
Did you say?
What?
I'm hard of hearing now. Lawnmowers all my life.
Okay. Any discussion?
On that account.
No, yeah, we're just, all right, just the 313. All right, all those in favor of the modified motion to take 5,000 out of Department 360, account 313, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, I'd like clarity on this. I think the Board of Selectmen took down 54,000 out of 101, and looks like 39,669 out of 403. And all I see is I assume one of the cruisers was taken out. That must be the capital equipment. Is that correct, Rich?
Yes, that's, the one car was removed
And the 54,000 was out of
of the overtime.
All right, so there's 2 headcount adds in these numbers.
Correct.
Correct.
I have a question. So you're requesting 2 new officers, 2 brand new. But now with the police officer that came off of deployment just recently, you will then be having, I'm not saying 3 new officers, but 3 active officers? Do you does that make sense?
3 more than they currently have.
You wanted 2 new, 2 were deployed, so you didn't have them.
Mhm.
1 is still deployed for a while,
2 or 3 more years.
and 1 just came back,
Correct.
okay? So, in one essence, the force has been expanded by 3.
No.
How, explain to me
We have
then-
38, we're approved for 38 sworn officers, including me and the chief.
Right,
We are asking to move that number up to 40, that's what we're asking.
right. But
Which-
of that 40
Yeah.
or 38, where are the 2 deployed officers?
There's only 1 deployed officer.
Right now,
Yes,
the one that just came back,
he's on FTO,
what does that mean?
training. Training, but then you could say that about, I'm confused because we also have a person at the academy. I mean, it's constantly.
No, I understand that. The one that just came back had been deployed, so he was not part of the normal rotation of police officers.
He's been part of our number, that
Yeah.
baseline number.
He was part of the 38.
Okay, but you weren't able to utilize him because he was not here.
Correct, yeah. And
But
then-
now having him back,
Well,
I
we also-
assume would be a help,
We also have
and
3
then,
other Army reservists that could be deployed at any time.
true,
So-
but they haven't been,
No, but.
but they could be, and then we face that.
That's only one aspect of our staffing.
Oh,
I understand
believe
what
me,
you're saying.
I
There's only one
understand that.
aspect. Did you-
And that's what I'm
Did
just
you get the
trying,
letter that I sent
we
out?
did, we all read it. I'm just trying to figure that out, whether that, I don't say growth, but now you'll have that 3rd person, which I assume is going to help with your workload.
Yeah, but we're also.
And I
have a
understand you want
retire-
2
retirement.
more,
But
okay?
that's not gonna help us because we're gonna have a retirement on March 31st. So that's gonna be down another
Right.
one. So that's, we're always gonna be
We are-
down
we
at the end
always-
of the
Always,
year.
always, right.
But you still have the salary to hire other officers to make up for that guy
reason.
that's gone, is that correct?
No.
You don't have that, you don't have the
No, we
salary?
can't, no, we can't spend that salary. We fill in with overtime where we can. We don't have the use of that salary just to hire another employee.
Not hire,
unless we
to do overtime.
We could do that.
Okay, can I
Well,
finish my
yeah.
motion? Okay.
Because Cynthia's
So,
up next.
what I was going to propose is to take the salary for the deployed officer, who you said won't be here for 2 more years, give or take, and transfer that money to the overtime account.
That gives us the ability to hire about 2/3 of a person, not a person, because you're gonna be paying them overtime.
No, we're moving
well
That's
that.
against
As
federal
well
law.
as-
Tell me how.
As well as I can
Because
only hire.
he's in the reserves.
I
The
understand
federal
that.
government is not gonna allow someone who's been deployed for you to take their salary out of a position, because when you take that out of salary, now you've reduced their staffing to 37. That is a complete violation of the
But
agreement.
is there, it's in the same line item
But-
for salaries.
But it's the way, it's, if the federal government audited you, and tell me if I'm wrong,
I
Bob,
asked
and
our HR person
you're right.
today about that.
Bob's saying I'm right.
I mean, it winds up being the same thing.
Yes and no.
The same dollar amount.
It's
It's
the
the same
same
thing.
dollar amount, but if we add
You can't
that,
take that away.
I'm
You
not
have to-
taking it away, I'm moving it from negotiated into
That's right.
overtime.
That's
But
what-
if you take the money out of that account, that guy doesn't have a job here anymore.
That's not true.
Where does it go now when he
Because
doesn't
it would be,
collect it?
he's not gonna be here for 2 more
They use it for
years,
overtime.
at least.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
That's what they
I don't
just
know.
said.
Wait a minute, on
I
our
think you can come up
paper,
at any
on our
time.
paper it may say that, but I guarantee you in Munis, they have a separate line for overtime. So you can't reduce the overall staffing of the police department to 37. We're just looking at one number.
Okay,
But, Bob, am I
we-
wrong, in Munis, is it broken down, do you have a line for overtime, like?
Not anymore. We
We
did
used
take those
to.
categories out, and it's all part of salaries.
It's just a really slippery slope, because the person is a full-time employee, and they've been called to active duty.
And
Federal
I'm
guidelines,
fully
you have to hold that
cognizant of that,
position.
I have a daughter in the military, yeah, but this just moves it into overtime, which is still in the same line item, negotiated salaries, overtime, dispatch, all that, but to move it into the overtime account, since we are not utilizing it as part of the negotiated salary.
Bob, at the end of the year, any salaries that don't get used by officers, you use that for overtime, right? Is that correct?
Well, if you have more overtime and you have less negotiated salaries, the two offset each other.
Exactly.
Cynthia's been waiting
Yes,
patiently.
I'm-
What's your question?
And patience is not my strong suit, so I should be doubly applauded. I'm trying to understand what Wendy's saying, and I think I do, but the question is, if that salary exists and it's in abeyance, you're not, I mean, it's still in the budget, it's not being paid to the deployed person. Not necessarily, we say, move it to overtime, but could you not use those funds to pay for overtime? Because that person, if they're not gonna be here for at least 2 years, is not gonna be enjoying that salary.
Chief, I'm sorry.
I understand, and your logic your logic is reasonable, I understand what you're saying. But I need more people, I don't need more overtime. I can only force them to work so much overtime before they all start to get angry. Believe it or not, they wanna go home. Now, you know that as well as I do, there's only so many people that want overtime. It's nice to have it, and they take advantage of it, but I need more people, not overtime.
I didn't say that I'm talking about the deployed officer, not the 2 additional,
Can I add just one point to that?
please.
Part of it, with the deployed officer right now, he's not overseas. He's deployed out of his house.
Okay,
He's working over Danbury, he's going to different places across the country. Even though he told us, and he's got a letter from his commander that he's gonna be gone for 2 years, it's not a guarantee for 2 years. He could come back in a week.
he could come back and we can,
We
Board of
don't-
Finance
We're pretty
could,
confident that he's not.
right,
So I think that's the other reason why we have to keep it there, just so,
Behave.
you know, in case he does.
right.
Yeah.
But I don't think that there would be any reason, if that happened, that you couldn't come back to the Board of Finance and say, we need a special appropriation, to put that back. And you would still have your 2 new. And we could offset the increases in the budget by having more money in the overtime account. So that, It sounds
It's for you guys to figure out.
strange, but
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So,
Go ahead,
so
Brian.
I think as a board, you know, we have to balance a few things, right? We have public safety, and we have our fiduciary responsibility. So, like I said, I am thoughtful of all budgets. You know, I looked at our choices, and we probably have 5 choices that we can make here tonight. We can hire 2 officers, starting in July, and we understand the impact of the budget. We could postpone the hiring of 2 officers until, it would be January, which is still in the current budget, but would be a net savings of almost $55,000. We could just say we're gonna hire 1 officer in July and eliminate the 1 position, and, you know, it's still reducing this line by 55, right, is about 55,000 is what we figured per officer. 55,000. We could hire 1, start them in January, and that would be an increase of about 27.5 in this year's budget, if we chose to go that way. Or you don't hire anything. I mean, I think, you know, we can come up with all these solutions, but I mean, those are basically your 5 options on the table. And I think as a board, we need to decide, you know, fiscal constraints important. We also have to outweigh that with public safeties and the needs. I mean, you know, my 2 favorite of the options I've given would be either to hire 1 July 1st, right? Give them that staffing July 1st, or start that one in January. I think if you spoke to the chief and the captain, they would say, I would like that 1 officer to start July 1st, correct? And I think it's a reasonable compromise for this board while we're increasing the staffing level of the police department, increasing the overall public safety of the town. We're also keeping in mind our fiduciary responsibility to the town by creating a budget that we think is gonna pass. Because the other thing that makes me nervous is, if this budget fails, well, now we have a much bigger mandate to cut, and there's no police officer, there's no increase to the building department's, you know, part-time help, there's no increases, so, you know, that would be my suggestion, but I think all the members have to come to a consensus that we hire an officer July 1st.
Wendy's still open, but I think, Cynthia, you've been waiting, so.
Oh, no, I forgot, because I've been waiting for so long,
Okay,
so.
so
it'll
Delene, are
come
you
to
up,
me.
please?
Yeah, so
We'll move on to the next one then. Could've been that
55,000 salary, correct? 22,000 for benefits, or what is benefits for police
You
officers?
did ask Bob that question.
What was that?
So let's know how much benefits.
The benefits.
22,000 you put in there?
But we took
Use
1 out
22.
already, there's only 1 benefit, right? There's only, right now,
From
there's
last
only
night.
1 benefit, they never put the 22 back in.
Yeah, we have to
For the
go back to
second
that
person.
account.
But if we were to hire 2, we're not at 110,000, right? We're actually at,
132,000.
yeah.
And their benefits might not be that much either.
Depends
Or
on
more.
who it is.
A lot of times
Single.
we're hiring young single people, the benefits are a lot
They're
less,
less.
correct?
Mm-hmm.
Brian,
Randy.
I did have a question for you. Did you not say the other night that Ridgefield, and this is what we used to do years ago, that in your negotiated salaries, when someone's out on workers' comp or short-term disability, your department, you'd sweep that money and put it into overtime?
We don't change the actual line. So our salary line for full-time officers is always the same.
Right.
At the end of the year, the controller has the ability to say, okay, you were over on overtime, we're gonna move this money from there down to cover it, but the salary line is still the salary line. It's an accounting principle, so our
I
recommended
understand.
staffing is 41. We're allowed 41 officers. So when you look at our salary, our total salary equals those 41 officers. Then we have overtime. I mean, we had a year we were down 8 officers, so you can imagine what our overtime was. But what they did was they just took from, at the end of the year, once we closed everything out, they said, look, they're really not over on their total budget. That's
Okay.
all.
I just want to make it clear, I am in support of 2 new officers.
Thank you.
Love you.
But the salary thing for the officer that, to me, it's almost that we are purposely overfunding an account, and by overfunding that account, we're essentially taxing too much.
Well, I think you make a really good point, and Mr. Straight made it when we were presenting the budget. If you choose to let us hire 2 officers, we're really not paying for that second officer, sorry. That second officer to 2 years from now, because that guy is gonna be out in the military for 2 more years. So we're really only adding 1 for the next 2 years, and the second one will be added to 2 years from now, if that makes sense.
I think they all
Yes.
make sense.
Yeah.
It just, to me, if we can take that salary or the salary equivalent and take that and put it towards overtime, then we may be able to reduce the overtime account reflective of that, and that you're,
However you wanna do it, if there's 2 officers, that'd be great.
so it doesn't, it's not the full impact of the cost of 2 new officers. Am I making any
No.
sense?
No, basically, no.
She's smart.
Cynthia, go ahead, I'm sorry, what you got?
So, I understand what Wendy's saying. I think, I would like to see hiring 1 officer and then seeing how the overtime pans out, because on the one hand, it was said that the deployed person could come back at any time, but then the second reasoning was that he's gonna be out for 2 years. So I'm thinking, hire 1, because the thing is about hiring people is then you have benefits and you have the associated costs with hiring a person, like a head count issue. So I would rather see 1 officer and then see how the overtime pans out over time. Because you will have that person's salary if need be.
Right.
And I don't wanna speak to Bethel's staffing and how they manage, but what I can tell you is this, is hiring 1 officer, hiring 2 officers doesn't have a negligible effect on overtime, okay? I think if Bethel hires 1 police officer, you're not gonna really see a big difference in their overtime, right?
I don't think
The
that's what I
chief
was
even
saying.
said that.
Right,
That's not
these
what I'm
guys.
saying.
You just said that hiring the officer, you wanna see how it affects overtime, so tell me what you were saying.
No, what I'm saying, see, I mean, they said that they can only ask for so much overtime before the officers start getting angry. I'm
What-
saying,
what-
see how angry.
all I'm trying to say is, hiring a police officer, I'm just speaking from my experience and factuality. A lot of their overtime comes from, do you wanna speak to it, Chief?
Part of what, you're correct, but part of, we spend $50,000 a year trying to keep the minimum staff of 3. 2 more officers will affect that 50,000. That 50,000 value will reduce. We're not
But
gonna
you'll
reduce it
have-
to 10, it's not gonna go down to 10, but it's gonna reduce, it'll affect that 50,000.
But you'll have 2 people with associated benefits and pension and health insurance and blah, blah, blah. So that's my point. I mean, I understand what you're saying.
I would like to make a modified motion.
Yeah.
This board has always dealt with prioritization. Safety has always been the #1 priority for the board, right? It's police, fire is the #1 priority. If we're not safe, then we're nothing. So that, combined with my repeatedly stated concern about where our economy is going, I do think 1 officer add this year, and we come back next year and we can have the discussion again. But it's a way of hopefully getting you guys some resources immediately, and then stage it, see what happens in our economy, see what happens with what you're seeing in the world around us, and revisit the second one next year. So that, my motion would be, I'm gonna need your all's number, Brad. I think it's in Department 360. This is just for discussion purpose right now, a
Mhm.
modified motion for
101.
discussion purposes. Department 360, line 101, reduced by 54,
Yes.
reduced by 54,000. And we do benefits later, separately?
We didn't budget for two benefits, we only budgeted for one,
Okay,
so
good.
no adjustment to benefits.
Second,
Second, discussion.
I think adding an officer, I know the News Times is not here, there's enough guys here to probably give a comment to the News Times, but when the Board of Selectmen cut 250,000 out to have those math teachers and a social worker, and then now we're just adding more officers, we're gonna have a tough decision when we get to the Board of Ed. So, I just wanna say that. If everybody's not gonna feel the pain,
I share your concern, Nick, that this is a tough
there's
budget.
$80,000 extra for that new $15 million building we put up, 80,000 just to certify the elevator, the sprinkler system, let alone the snow plowing and everything else. And now we're adding more. So, you know, I remember when the building was proposed, the chief said, we do not need any more officers. The year after the building was up, they got one new officer. And now, another year later, we're asking for another one. So, that's my point.
Brian, you had your,
Yeah, I just wanna talk, and we can talk more about the Board of Ed when they're here.
tomorrow, by the way.
The fact is that the Board of Ed budget as it stands now is still $150,000 more than the superintendent's recommended budget. So all those positions that you said were cut out.
They gave a
Let
nice
me,
proposal
let me finish.
for explaining what they needed.
No, hear me out. Because the board was able to find savings that wasn't known at the time.
The Board of Ed.
The Board of Ed, and please correct me if I'm wrong, other people have jumped in, and he's on the Board of Ed, so I think he's probably the best person to speak to this. So, really, it was almost 404,000 that was recommended over the superintendent's proposed budget when
We
you
can
backed
talk
out
about
the
that
benefits.
tomorrow.
yes, we can.
But you made the point to bring it up now, so it's a fair thing to talk about, is what I'm trying to say. You know, if we were gonna be 100%, right, we wouldn't have added part-time on any account, but we did. So, you know, I just wanna be on an equal playing field, that's all. So, all I'm trying to say is, all those positions have not been cut, and the two new teachers, the administrator, and the custodian are not even included in this. That's in the original budget. So to say that, you know, we've said no to any new employee, well, we don't have that total control. I think, again, it won't be popular, and you guys won't agree with me, and I do support you guys 100%. If you started that person in January, the savings is another 22,000. That's the only thing I'm saying, it's another 22,000 in savings. Plus, well, no, benefits will be the same, that's not gonna change.
I would like to not discuss any further the Board of Ed just
Correct.
now.
Yep.
We will when everyone's out of here. I think it's informative just to have that interaction for the
Yeah,
moment.
no Board of Ed.
No, we do.
No,
We'll
he's
discuss
motion to
it.
discuss.
Yeah, for your,
Yes,
We're
we're
just
still
discussing.
discussing.
Purpose of discussion.
Cynthia.
yeah, I just wanna say that it may reduce the amount. I'm just thinking, it's not gonna reduce the commitment to the person and the benefits, et cetera. And, you know, the point was taken that when we did get the police station, it did cost $1 million more than it was supposed to. The chief did say there would not be any.
The police station has
I don't remember
zero to
saying
do
that.
with what
Well,
we
can
do
I
for
also
them.
say,
I'm
I
just-
remember the chief sitting right
Oh,
there.
don't
I'm
get
not
angry,
saying-
I'm
I
happy to
am,
work.
because you keep on-
I have acknowledged that I wasn't asking for any, I never said I never needed any, there's a big
Oh.
difference.
And this-
Okay,
and
I
don't-
I misunderstood
Yeah,
that.
because the chief said he would not need, I remember it like it was yesterday, like, sometimes I can't remember what I ate for breakfast, but then other things are
Well, we're not-
locked in my mind. What the chief said was, just because of the building,
Yeah.
he was not gonna
I don't
need
need any
extra
extra
heads.
officers to run the
Other
building.
stuff may happen.
Okay,
And those drivers may require additional heads, but I'm sorry, chief, you can defend yourself, I just wanna get past this. There was never a statement in this room that the police station itself would drive a need for additional heads.
Right, not like you had to fill up all the rooms,
Right.
basically,
So
you know,
I
the
ju-
extra space, I get that.
So again, people have said that, I remember it distinctly, you being very clear on the point, so I'd like to just kind of, let's move on.
Okay,
The
But-
police station has nothing to do with how the town is growing.
I
This
gotcha.
town is expanding.
I got
We have
it,
apartment buildings
I-
left and right.
I got
We
it.
need more officers. It has nothing to do with the new building.
Okay, I'll take back what I said, I thought maybe perhaps I misunderstood
No, you're
it.
good.
But I still believe that there are certain departments that it gets very sensitive and touchy. And I don't think it's constructive to, you know, go back and forth in an angry way or a defensive way.
We're sitting here telling you we need more officers.
Okay, look, this,
People
good,
tell us a
good
lot
talk.
of things.
Rich, what do you have to say?
All right, well, to that point, in their presentation to the joint commissions, the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance, they did point out the needs for more officers. The arrest rates have gone up. The town is growing, and we saw that in the schools also. If, I'm not a voting member on the Board of Finance, but if I could make a suggestion, would you consider amending your motion to adding the other police officer to start in January of next year? That way they would have 1.5 in the queue.
Where folks,
Again, I don't wanna speak against the police department, obviously, I've been a policeman 25 years, it's not a secret. You'll have my support with one, okay? I think it's a reasonable request. I believe the chief's original request was one, after discussions were had, it was bumped to 2. Am I correct?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, the police
So-
commission bumped it
Right,
to
so
2.
I'm gonna trust the chief's decision, who said he needed one officer, and I will support that position, because he's the department head, and it's nothing, I understand the police commission's position that they need to look at everything, but the chief asked for one, I will support one.
Here,
And I'm
here.
not gonna support 2. I think that's a fair statement.
you know, Rich, just to be responsive to your point, I think by, staggering the start dates, it's really just kind of doing mathematics for 1 year. I would like to, again, given the uncertainty in the general economy, kind of have some certainty around this budget, and then we can come revisit, excuse me. All right, I'm sorry, Paul, did you, any more discussion? All right, so the amended motion that we are now going to vote for is that in Department 360, line item 101, we reduce that by $54,000 to represent the addition of one officer. Not two.
Second.
No, it's the elimination of one.
Yeah,
Yeah, it does.
that was not very articulate. It brings us down to one ad, it eliminates, takes us from 2 to 1. Correct. All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
All right. Brian?
Could we bring up the overtime?
Yeah.
So Chief, based on the hiring of one officer, I know that the Board of Selectmen cut the overtime by 54,000. Am I correct? The overtime line?
I think that's what they just said, yeah.
Okay. So with this additional officer coming on the road, you said it wouldn't be the full 50,000 with 2. Would it be possible to reduce the overtime line a little bit without detriment to your police department?
Yes.
Would $10,000 be a reasonable number if that would not be a detriment to your police department? I make a motion to cut a further $10,000 out of the overtime line from the police department
Second.
overtime budget.
Just, Brad, is that a different account?
Nope, it's still.
It's still the same
everything goes
account,
So
but
let's-
it's,
yeah, no,
it's in his,
So you think we should keep it separate? Rather than just saying 64,000?
I would keep it,
I
I kinda like
Yeah.
it separate
Okay.
because
Yeah.
they have a guaranteed staffing is all I'm
That's fine.
trying to say, is that that's a guaranteed staffing, this is coming from
It'll be
overtime.
easier to keep track of.
It'll be easier to keep track of.
Okay.
There's drop-down detail in OpenGov
Okay.
under 101.
We've got a amended motion, seconded, I guess it's no, I'm sorry, it's a new motion.
It's a new motion, it's just a new motion.
New amended motion to drop it by 10 grand. And the it is 101. Any further discussion?
I'm probably beating a dead horse, because in my mind, I seem to be the only one who understands that we're overfunding the negotiated salary account by the officer that we're not paying. So, can we, knowing that there's extra money in that account to the tune of at least $54,000 or more, can we increase the reduction? Instead of your 10,000, can we make that another 10, 20,000?
The only reason why I would speak to it is this, is that if we're using the officer who is on deployment, to the captain's point, that officer could come back. Doesn't matter,
Anytime.
doesn't matter what the officer says, it matters what the federal government says. So, and this is just the way my mind works. They have a guaranteed staffing, right? So if we're gonna increase their staffing to 39, my personal feeling is that our salary line should reflect the 39. The thing is when officers get injured, workers' comp covers, I think 66% of their salary.
Well, workers'
Maybe
comp
even-
would
maybe
cover it
more.
all.
But my point is we still have that money in that line.
But
where-
what do we
if
do with
go
it at
over-
the end?
Well, what happens is it either reduces the overtime cost,
Right.
or,
We transfer it to a different account?
or it goes back into the general fund.
So we're really still over?
But we didn't
Spending
want to,
that
but what I'm saying
account.
is, we were paying by $5,000 in legal services.
I understand.
We're talking about an officer who makes 75,000 at top step. We're gambling that one of them's gonna get injured. I'm hoping that they don't get injured.
Oh, absolutely.
So
Nobody's
I don't
saying
think, I think salaries like that is much different. I think you just keep the salary line where it is. If you wanna gamble and you wanna say 20,000 in overtime isn't gonna hurt them, then fine. I mean, I just want the salary line to stay the same. where
The
their
gamble
thing
is that there's always the Board of Finance to come back to. We cut the library $15,000. They can't have any more hours or anything like that, but we are overfunding negotiated salaries by $54,000 at least.
How?
Because we're not paying the officer
But
and
it's-
his salary is there.
But it's a real position that's on the police department.
But
And
where-
not- And the officer, you can cut overtime
Because
if
they're
you want.
using that money will just be used for overtime, right? If the salary's sitting there, then they can tap
But
that.
I think the
for
question might be, and Bob, could you tell us, for this last few years, we've had that position funded at $54,000, that position's in salary. And you said at the end of the year that
Well, you know when we do the transfers at the
$54,000
end.
can be transferred
So
over.
you
And
wind
you
up.
transfer it
One at a
historically
time.
to overtime, or where is it being
Well,
transferred to?
The overtime gets charged to overtime, and then you exceed the amount that was originally budgeted, but because you don't have the salary in there, your salaries have a surplus, you spent less on that, and the two of them together offset each other.
Right.
And in some
So your
cases,
deficit in overtime and your surplus in salary, you can fund. So I guess my point is over the years, this situation has been overfunded. The 54,000 placeholder has been in salaries, but it seems like historically, at the end of the year, we've done this transfer to move it to overtime. So it's not like
No, it's not
it
like-
is,
I
it is being
understand.
used.
Right.
It's not like we can
But knowing
take the $54,000
that
and use
it's
it for
not
something.
there, put it into overtime then.
No, I think we have, I think the point has been made that it's working the way it is. It does go to overtime, but you have to have the placeholder in salary.
I just wanna make a point. Police salaries is not overfunded. It is what they are approved for. So if they're approved for 37 officers, you have to fund 37 officers. It's not overfunded. They can't predict how many officers are gonna be out on injury.
Right?
They can't predict how long this person's gonna be on deployment. What they can say is that we're approved for 37 officers, and this is the salary for 37 officers. I don't think it's fair to say we're overfunding salaries, we're funding our commitment, so if we're
We're
moving to.
funding our commitment that we're not using.
Or
this
funding
year,
overtime.
but
Right.
mid-year.
Or last year,
But
or-
mid-year, because historically people get hurt. But it's
Right.
kinda like we said about the lawyer. You know, I wanted to cut $5,000 out of a $30,000 increase, and we were worried about that. If they have a healthy year, which I pray they all do, and all 38 officers are here for a full year, you have to meet that full.
Let them finish talking, you go.
So that's what I'm trying to say, it's important, it's not overfunded, it's the correct amount. If we wanna cut overtime and you wanna amend my motion to over 10,000, if you want me to remove my motion, I will. I just asked the chief what he felt was a fair number to cut, and he felt that that is a number that he would live with, because we have been asking the department heads quite a bit, what are numbers that they could live with. So, I just wanna take the notion out that we've overfunded a salary line. We are funding what we've approved in salary.
Cynthia?
I think that the word overfunded was inflammatory, and I think that I think what Wendy's saying is,
I
you're
understand.
saying the same thing. Are you gonna amend a motion, Wendy, or are you gonna make a new motion, or is this?
No, I'll stick with the 10.
Good
I have a
question.
second on that.
Move,
Well, then can I ask a question? So I understand, and I'm asking you. So if we've got whatever the salary is of this person who's deployed, let's call it 60, somewhere in between 50 and 75, right? So that has to stay there, obviously, that has to be a funded position. However, at the end of the year, if you need more overtime money, that's where you're gonna pull it from.
Correct.
So,
No, that's not where we're going to put it. No.
well, that's where
That's
Bob,
where they're going to put it.
Yeah.
fine,
Whoever
but that's where it's
pulls-
gonna come from.
His point is, I think,
Wait,
financially.
I'm sorry, can I just finish asking my question? I think it's simple and I just don't know the answer. So why wouldn't we then consider reducing overtime by substantially more than 10,000? Because we have a very good sense that that position, those wages for that position are going to be available at least at the end of this year.
But
So why wouldn't we reduce the overtime by 50,000, let's say?
because the overtime that the selectmen give them does not even come close to their overtime. So Bob is using the extra salaries to try to get in the black.
Wait, so you
Yeah.
spend more in overtime than you're actually allocated in the
Tremendous
budget?
amounts.
Not anymore, it's pretty close now.
No, the projection that we have in the budget is what we expect to spend for the overtime.
Then I
They
would-
know,
Make a motion.
Bob knows, that there'll be some excess in salary at the end of the year, so if we go over if we ask for 300,000 and you cut it 50 and we only get 250, and we spend 300, he's okay with that because he knows there's an excess 50 in salary. But his point about salary accounts, if you have 39 now, people, they need to be funded as 39. At the end of the year, if there's excess there, he'll use that to adjust
Yeah,
the counts
that's what we're all saying.
at the end of the year.
So then,
federal mandate that you've gotta maintain that salary.
so then my
Phyllis
question
said
is,
no.
what is the usage of overtime by quarter, let's say? Right, cause,
Yeah.
do we use it equally throughout the year?
Just like with grants.
Is it that $50,000 being available at the end of the year going to satisfy our overtime needs?
It usually does. It usually, Bob, I can't speak for this, but we've been pretty close on, at the end of the
You
year.
just looked it up.
So if you just look at the last full year we have, so 2019, negotiated salaries, the police came under budget by 55,000, and their overtime was over budget by $59,000.
So they're a net loss of 4,000, is that
Yes.
right?
Yep. Keep in mind, the selectmen already cut the chief's proposed overtime by 54,000. So Brian's 10 really is a $64,000 to the chief's request.
And keep in mind, if we have a natural disaster, if we have unforeseen events, in law enforcement, it's just not a fact of saying they were at 250 this year, they're gonna be at 250 next year. If we have a Hurricane Sandy hit and their overtime budget can just fly, if we have a microburst, if we have a
No,
tornado.
understood,
come-
Brian,
You know,
but this is,
and-
we're just
and-
planning for.
Right, and again, like
the
with
regular events here.
the coronavirus, if there's vaccine centers, they're gonna be called to duty to maintain order, direct traffic, so I have no problem if you wanna increase mine somewhat,
what I'm
but I mean, I think at
hearing-
56,000, we're really.
But what I'm hearing from Brad is that the selectmen already took 54,000 out of the overtime account. So he's
Correct.
already accounted for that potential extra salary available at the end of the year. extra money available at the end
The
of the
first
year.
selectman's proposed budget added or kept in one new officer for 54,000. He knew it really is not a one for one by adding that 54,000, but he took out 54,000 from
From
OT
overtime.
to balance that out.
Bob, was there a second on
Was
this?
there a second on that
Yes, there
10,000?
was.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm sorry, Cynthia, go, 'cause
Cynthia.
I think that we have to start getting friendly with the idea of coming back to the Board of Finance in the case of an emergency. If we had all those things happen, we would be, you know, in a pretty bad situation. And I think that there would be a lot of things that would have to happen. So I just think that, just as an exercise, we really need to think, you can come back to the Board of Finance if it's a significant amount that that there's a deficit. I mean, it's been done before, so that's all.
I would just kind of end the discussion perhaps. When we look to the last year,
We'll see about that.
the police department kicked back into the general fund about $68,000. That's 1% on a $4.5 million budget. That's pretty good accuracy and precision. So understand the general concern about not wanting to overtax the taxpayer nor run short of what's needed. That's pretty good precision. So I think we have all this angst, but in the overall picture, I think these budgets have done a pretty good job of explaining their needs.
Can I make a motion to move my question?
Yes, you
just to
can.
try to remind the
Sure.
board?
Yes.
Can I second that?
Yeah,
Thank you.
so here's the motion that we're gonna ask you to think about. In Department 360, line item 101, a second reduction of $10,000. All those in favor of that motion?
Just an additional, not a second.
It's an addition, it's
From the
10,000 to the
5,000.
54.
Okay.
To be shown in the overtime, though, how they broke that down.
However, that, we only have one line item here.
All
but
right,
he'll-
but just to be shown in overtime.
I'll take it. All those in favor of that, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, any more discussion on the police department?
Can I make a motion that we cut 36403 for an amount of one of the cruisers? And move it back down to 2 cars for this year with a
Second.
tight budget? I think the chief testified that he was going to buy a new chief's car. So I think we can drive that car one more year. Since we're gonna be cutting other things.
Nick, I'm sorry, one more time, give me the account, I'm sorry.
It was 36403. And I'm sorry, Brad, it looks like 39,669.
Yes, that's what the Board of Selectmen cut to remove one vehicle.
And it's down to 3, so my motion was to cut that same amount to cut another car. And that'd be leaving them 2 new cars. Brad, how much is in that account now? Did they buy their cars yet this year, or they're gonna buy them in the spring after the snow?
The captain would know better when they bought them.
We bought 2 of them, and the other one's currently on order, it should be here soon.
So you have 3 pretty new cars besides all the other ones you have?
Yeah, we also have a bunch of old cars.
Oh, I
that we
understand that, I
replace.
understand.
And
Is that
chopping it down to 2 would put us in big trouble.
It's not a,
Well, the
me-
chief
it's
said
not a
he was
matter
gonna
of me
replace it.
driving my car one more year, Mr. Ellis, it's a matter of the training car that is already, how many years old?
The chief's car's not getting replaced, it's being moved down to the
No, I
detective
understand,
bureau.
I understand.
So it'd actually be replacing a 11-year-old car with about 90,000 miles.
Is that a motion, Nick? Did you-
That was a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any further discuss, oh, go ahead.
Well, just one question, in the future, have you looked at the possibility of leasing some of your unmarked cars so you can kind of switch them up and, I mean, and again, it works for us, it's just something we like to do because, you know, we lease them because we could change the look of them every couple of years, you know?
We have, but leasing, everybody that I speaks to, including Bob, leasing costs more money. We would love to, I'd love to lease a car and get a new car every 3 years, but financially, it makes more financial sense to, or just buying, I should say, not financing.
See, I just like the lease because it comes almost a set number in the operating budget.
No, I know.
Do you know what I'm saying? If it's 8,000 a
I
year,
don't- and I
10,000 a year,
think-
it's just that set, so we don't have years where we're saying, are we getting the police department 4 cars, are we getting them 3 cars? When we're talking about unmarked cars, and again, this is just for future
Yeah.
thought, you know, is there a possibility a way where we could save money, but maintain your fleet to, you know, high standards every 3 years, you know? you're turning those unmarked in and getting new ones.
No problem looking into it, again,
No,
it's, yeah, and I talked to you, I called you and asked you how you guys did yours.
Yeah, we're still waiting for ours. April if we're lucky, before he said.
So, I just, can I say something, or?
Sure.
Yeah. Cutting, you already cut us from 4 to 3, we've been cut, the car lasted each of the last 2 years. Yeah, we've asked for 4, we've been cut to 3 in the last 2 years. Dropping it down to 2 would hurt us substantially. We'd be coming in front of you probably in 6 months asking you for another car, because we'd have a car with 95,000 miles on it that we'd have to keep that wouldn't be suitable for the road anymore, so. it's- And plus, can I have, I'm sorry, we also made an additional we made $130,000 last year using cars in extra duty. That's $40,000 more than the year before, so that would easily fund that third car that you're considering.
I hate to do this, but can we move that question? All right. So all those in favor of, we'll deal with the numbers if it passes, of eliminating a second car, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay.
Hey,
Wait, can we,
It's
Who
down
was-
4-3.
okay, but just who said yes?
It was 2 no's and the rest said yes.
To that motion,
It was 2
No,
yeses.
2 yeses.
2 yeses,
and
I'm
then
sorry.
4 no's.
And the
So
rest were
Nick and
no's.
Cynthia said yes.
okay.
So now figure out the dollar amount.
Well, it stays the same, right?
Yeah.
Well, for that.
Was the total cut 70,000 to the overall budget between the police officer, the 10,000 in overtime, and the 5,000 in contracted services?
It's
69,000.
I got 69.
69,000.
Yeah. Right?
So what's the final number?
Yeah, well, I think we do that, so.
Brad will tell us.
The
69.
department total with those, after those cuts, is $4,835,692. So $4,835,692.
Should be doing our own work in math class. All right, so then we need the motion to accept the revised total amount in Department 360 of $4,835,692.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, I think that's all the folks, those are the departments for all the folks who are here, right? I'd like to make, what do you think, maybe about a 5-minute
Can I just ask a question before we leave, just an
Recess.
informational question? Brad, how much have we actually cut out in between last night and tonight?
Let's see.
93.5?
Less than $100,000?
Yep.
79, 88, about 98.
No, we should be over 100,000, based on the numbers I have.
Right there.
98.5.
Yeah, right there.
So we're at 98.5, and what does that take us to if we, you know, like, were to stop right now? What are we at in terms of percentage spending increase?
The overall budget increase would be 3.83.
3.83.
So 98.5 is where we're at right now.
Yeah, but we've made 0.16% progress. Okay, I just wanted to have a, you know, like,
We still
progress
have more
check there.
accounts to do
Yeah,
tonight.
yeah, I know.
All right, so is there a 5-minute recess, and then we come back for about another 30 minutes.
okay, thank you for moving us up, and thank you for your consideration.
Thanks for coming,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thanks, Chief.
The second you guys leave, there's